And Sam Flannel, I'm glad you're here because it's my understanding. I was told you called for Steve Yzerman's job on the Morning Woodward show.
That is not even remotely true, but
okay, so you were critical to some degree?
To some degree.
Okay, state your case, and then I'll annihilate you.
Okay.
You know what? Pay attention. Okay.
Just for the record, let me just say this before I start on this soliloquy, because I am obviously open to having my mind changed. Obviously, DMAC has forgotten more about hockey than I will ever know. I just think I'm giving a voice to the people who are
voiceless.
I would say voiceless at this point. I mean, you wouldn't say that they're voiceless.
You and Kyrie Irving.
You're a regular CM Punk. You're a punk, all right.
I'm just saying that Steve Yzerman, this is year 5. I feel like he's gotten maybe a little bit too much of a free pass. I was obviously hoping for him to make a move like Alex DeBrincat or something like that, but that didn't happen. Maybe it wasn't available. I have no problem
with it's not available because they haven't traded him.
Okay,
so
fine.
It's not available.
Okay,
so start right there.
Okay, fine. I have no problem.
Their GM came out, spoke to the media, said we gave no teams permission to talk contract with them because we're not thrilled with the offers.
Okay, and that is fair enough. It's the mindset of people like you, Neil Rule. I didn't single you out earlier, but you're kind of who I was talking about. I remember in the middle of the season when they sold off, when they were in the playoff run for a second, and then they had that stretch where they lost, and then they sold off guys like Filip Hronek, Tyler Bertuzzi, and the likes of which. It was just this self-righteousness that you had when it came to going off of Steve Yzerman's comments about how it's like, we were never going to make a move, we were never there, and you were almost like happy about it. It's these forever rebuilds that it almost seems to you get your rocks off to. That's what I just
want to know, do we want anybody or the right bodies? That's all.
Sure.
No. Sure what? You just want players you see stats, you're going to see stats of them and go, oh, that guy's good. He's got to fit in here. Or would you rather have somebody that's been there and forget his playing career and all he's accomplished? Does he not get credit for what he did in Tampa Bay?
He gets credit.
I mean, has Neil not broken down? Like, I thought last year he was able to crack the egg in free agency and do what he wanted because he'd gotten the books right. We act like he's 5 years of freeloading, doing whatever he wanted, being Shanny in Toronto and putting a team together. No, am I losing my marbles? I mean, I am. But the fact is that, isn't it about the right players? And if you have to wait for the right players...
Let me step in here, D-Mac. And Flannel, here's the deal with that. And then that's been one of the talking points that have really pissed me off about people in the media in this town. 5-year rebuild. How can you call something a 5-year rebuild when your first year on the job, you got $13.5 million in Jimmy Howard, Franz Nielsen, and Justin Abdelkader? First year on that doesn't even count. That doesn't even count towards a year. What are you supposed to do with that?
No, that's fair enough.
They're still paying Justin Abdelkader till 2026.
No, and I gave the caveat that Steve Yzerman walked into a dumpster fire, the likes of which...
Then how does it count as a year? How are we year 5 into the What are you going to do with that?
Obviously, I would probably run it further into the ground because I'm not Steve Yzerman. I'm not saying he doesn't get credit for what he has done in fixing the books. He's made a lot of great draft picks and a couple of really great moves going into this past season. I'm just saying, I just don't want to get comfortable with these long rebuilds. I'd like to see them in the playoffs soon. And I'm open to being wrong. I hope that you guys all make me eat my words, and I do think Steve Yzerman is eventually going to get this team to the promised land, but at the same time, it's this obsession with these long rebuilds and not taking a risk. Maybe the risk isn't there, but I'm just saying, I'm giving the voice to people who maybe had some questions. That's it.
I don't under a 5-year rebuild. How I gave you the financials on it, man.
Sure.
They're still paying Justin Abdelkader.
That's bad.
This isn't. And my other favorite talking point that everybody's rolled out of bed with, talking for a lot of hockey for the first time in 9 years in this town. Well, the Vegas Golden Knights won a Stanley Cup. They had a clean slate to work with.
I didn't say that, for the record. I agree with you 100% on that point.
It's nowhere near the same thing.
No.
And we can revisit this because it's true. And D-Mac, plug your ears. Ken Holland set fire to this franchise, burned it to the ground with what he did financially. And I'm going to keep saying it, guys, because it's true. And some of the other talking heads in this town that are like, all the bad contracts are off the books, except they're not. You're paying Abdelkader till 2026. Think about that for a minute. They're not all gone. They're not ready to roll. They're not 5 years in. Have some common sense, guys. Jesus Christ, man. Look around. You're supposed to flip that. You're supposed to flip that in 5 years?
Flannel.
Give me the path then, Flannel. Come on, give it to me. And then I hear here, woodwardsports.com chat thread, Detroit Supremacy. Make trades. Okay, what trades would you like them to make? Supremacy. What trades?
Let's trade for Connor McDavid.
Yeah.
Idiots.
What do you want done? Tell me the path.
Anyways, the Red Wings selected round 2, pick number 9, Trey Augustine, a goaltender from the USA under-18 development team. And the next pick, they chose a defenseman out of Sault Ste. Marie, the OHL, Andrew Gibson. Still waiting on the third of them all. Hey, I got it wrong. I thought they'd be making a deal, but obviously I didn't think that Ottawa would come out and say nobody can negotiate a contract with DeBrincat. I mean, it's one way, right? So this is contingency plan. Remember that I said before? I'd be interested to ask Steve Yzerman, what contingency plan did you go in with? This is probably B, right? He's going to use all his picks, and he's going to solidify and make this team better. Like, guys, just the more and more, and I love the fact that, somebody said last night, D-Mac, you need to start your clock again or whatever. No, I do not, because the expectations haven't changed. And I didn't know that the season was already played, Neil. I didn't know that it was already in, because yesterday everybody else is already bagged in. We're not making playoffs. Don't you have to watch to see what's on the ice? You have to see what he adds in free agency. That he just did it differently. And all right, I think they took the... Did they trade out of 11?
Looks like a trade has been made.
So
all
there's
of a
your
sudden,
trade, guys.
the Nashville Predators are now on the clock. They took Felix Nilsson.
So that means Steve Yzerman
Center.
must have traded with Nashville, right? Out of that spot. So I wonder. So there's your trade.
Flannel, are you happy?
It's not about whether I'm happy or not. I mean, it is what it is.
They traded Nashville pick number 43 for. They will in return get pick number 47 and 147. So they drop back 4 slots to pick up pick number 147 overall.
So do you have Spenny?
Well, we got conflicting reports. Somebody says 147 overall. Ted Colfin, who I would tend to believe more, says pick 107.
Yeah, that sounds more like it.
So there you have, what's that, 4th rounder?
But it's like, again, and Steve Yzerman came out and said it, if you're watching the broadcast, the fact that we are still in the rebuilding mode. That's why the question is, okay, is this contingency plan too? Because I think that how I read it is that he had an idea last week that it was this way, and now it's different, so they're in contingency plan, and it's about amassing draft picks right now. So free agency still starts. DeBrincat hasn't moved. I mean, it's still on. Everything's still on the table, Neil.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread. And Tim K says the New York Rangers were a bottom feeder. They turned around pretty quick, starting with free agents. But then I look, I see Panarin on there, right? Yeah, that's their big dollar guy,
man.
Which I understand. Okay, you got that. Who they're paying $12 million to as a 32-year-old right now, by the way. How about Chris Kreider? That's a homegrown guy for the Rangers, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all obviously helps when you make the playoffs and the bingo balls fall your way and you get the first overall pick in Lafreniere, who's
been relatively mid for them.
But he's been mid as a first overall pick producing. But he's the kid line that they got over there with Cheadle and forget who the other guy is. They're productive, and then they've been deeper into the playoff run. So, yeah. I mean, if you're doing it by Sam Flannel stats wise, no.
Yeah, Flannel.
I mean,
but if you're going by, as far as meaning something to that organization and finding a niche, I think that, Alex Lafreniere and what they've done with the first overall pick.
Yeah. So we're gonna continue this. No doubt.
Which again to the why have we been put in a fortuitous position like a lot of other teams or any other team in the draft? No. So Stevie's working against that too, but nobody.
I don't even get caught up in that. Like I
don't either because it's part of it. No, we don't even use it, but it's almost like we can use it as a stat with all the other stats that everybody else is using against them.
Yeah. It's time. You guys know what it is. Big Package Friday. Let's put those packages out on the table. You know we're going to start with the Detroit Lions. Let's do the Detroit Lions nickel package. 5 questions about your Detroit Lions.
All right, first question of the Detroit Lions nickel package. Will Brian Branch get meaningful playing time this season?
Not if he's out there trying to check J-Mo anymore.
Yeah.
That's the reports. Branch getting cooked by Jamison Williams. And I'm not saying it's over, bust alert or anything. I'm not like you guys out there when Jamison Williams bets on a college game from a team hotel, by the way. Will he get meaningful playing time? Their biggest weakness turned into a strength.
Yeah.
Like through the course of one offseason, it turned into a strength. So he's going to have to be good to get playing time.
He's going to have
your guy, by the way.
No, and that's fair. And for the record, I don't think Brian Branch will ever be expected to cover a guy the caliber of Jamison Williams in a game because he's more of either a slot corner or safety. But still, I understand. Brian Branch, he is very, very versatile. That's the thing that I think will possibly get him on the field if there's an injury or something like that. But right now, at least for this season, this secondary with Tracy Walker coming back, the addition of Sutton, Mosley, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and having Kirby Joseph back there, it's deep. It's a bit of a logjam. So it's going to be tough for Brian Branch to kind of crack the lineup from time to time. But if there's an injury and if Brian Branch shows out and if they run these packages where maybe they have 6 secondary players, I think he will get some playing time. But next year, with C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Emmanuel Mosley being on 1-year contracts, that's when you really look for Brian Branch to possibly start.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Steve Wild says Sam Flannel has a pea-sized package.
Oh,
damn.
That's not nice.
Well, someone likes it.
All right, question number 2 of the Detroit Lions nickel package. Bigger impact rookie season, Jahmyr Gibbs or Jack Campbell?
I think these are 2 different answers. Who it will be and who it needs to be.
Mm-hmm.
I think who it needs to be is Jack Campbell. I think who it will be is Jahmyr Gibbs. I think even, like, we know what the deal was with Gibbs, what he was coming in, viable receiving threat. Probably looking to carry some of the water while Jamison Williams is gone, is out. From the receiving standpoint, line them up in the slot, all that kind of stuff that they want to do. I think it will be Gibbs. It needs to be Campbell, though, because, again, I don't want NFL teams running for 300 yards and a half on me. I want NFL teams to punt at least once when they play us. Therefore, it needs to be Jack Campbell.
I would say that it is going to be Jack Campbell. It's no disrespect to Jahmyr Gibbs, but with Jack Campbell, he is going to get, I think, a lot more usage. I predict that he leads the team in tackles this year, and by the end of the season, maybe starts to transition over from Alex Anzalone into the defensive captain. With Jahmyr Gibbs, he's obviously going to get some run as a pass catcher. I hope a lot of run, but I don't think he's going to get any more than 10 to 15 carries a game, and they already have David Montgomery. So I think just because of usage, Jack Campbell.
I hope you're right, man. Because if it is, if he has the best, if he has the best rookie season, then the Lions are probably raising a division banner and having a home playoff game.
No matter how you slice it, defense was their weak point last year. It just was. It cost them a playoff spot. It did.
All right, third down.
Third down, bigger free agent impact, David Montgomery or Cam Sutton?
Who it's going to be or who it needs to be Cam Sutton.
Yeah.
For all the reasons that I just listed off there. Like, look, guys, again, I think most people like the Montgomery signing. I'm higher on him. Me and Spenny are higher on him probably than most people are.
Mm-hmm.
But it's got to be Cam Sutton, man. Again, for all the reasons listed before. And I know, like, we're talking about, like, rushing attack and things like that. But the defense, to get to where – because we all say the window's open, right?
Sure.
Is that universally held?
Yes.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
The window's open, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Then the time for the bullshit with the defense is over. Like, you can't have games like that. Your defense has to keep you in everything all the time because that's what good teams' defenses do.
Here's why it's going to be Cam Sutton and not David Montgomery. I think the pendulum has shifted a little bit too far to the bad when it comes to Jamal Williams' tenure here. I believe he was a little overvalued when he was here, but now that he's gone, people are just taking the time to take pot shots at him. Like David Montgomery is this enormous upgrade, and for the record, I believe he's an upgrade. But you got to remember, Jamal Williams was 11th in the NFL in rushing yards last season and first in rushing touchdowns. So it's not like David Montgomery is taking over for a scrub. You still have to get those yards, even if it's behind a good offensive line. On the other hand, Cam Sutton last season gave up a 51% completion percentage when targeted and allowed a passer rating of 69.6. Jeff Okudah gave up a 62% completion percentage when targeted and a 97 passer rating when targeted. So I'm just saying the need for Cam Sutton is much greater.
I was told he was playing well.
Well, I mean,
he was playing well like Almago's back, right? He was on the Javier Baez playing well.
He had some good moments. I will give him that. But 97, that's not QBR. That's passer rating. It's not as bad as people think. But I'm just saying that the Cam Sutton signing, it's needed. I think he's going to be the number one corner on this team and turn out to be the most valuable free agent signing out of everybody. So give me Cam Sutton.
Remember, I was told Okudah was. Remember, we had those discussions.
He had some good games.
I was told that.
Yeah.
Those numbers suggest he did not.
I guess not.
Those numbers are. It's like Javi Baez's on base percentage.
Mm-hmm.
Like you know it, but then when you see it, you're like, damn, for real? Is that even possible? Oh, it's possible.
Oh, it's possible.
And it's real.
All right, bigger jump in year 2, Aiden Hutchinson or Kirby Joseph?
Wait a minute, hold on. Gary and Grand Haven. I was told we need to re-sign Okudah in October by Neil. Neil's been on the cut Okudah for a while.
Yeah.
Plan, everybody.
Yeah.
I was stunned they got anything for him in trade. But anyway, though, Hutch or Kirby, bigger year 2 jump. I will say this. I know the masses, and they're going to accuse me of being a Michigan hater and stuff like that, and I know what the masses are going to say, and I understand it. How about, will you give me this? Can we meet in the middle? I think the chances of it being Kirby Joseph are far greater than a lot of people realize. He's got a chance to be special, man. Is that fair?
Yes.
I'm not going to say it's Kirby over Hutch because I don't want to draw the sword on a big package Friday.
I think there are multiple layers to this because part of the reason why it could be Kirby Joseph, even if I don't necessarily agree, is because Aiden Hutchinson to me had a better rookie season overall than Kirby Joseph. To me, Kirby Joseph was a better turnover creator than overall safety. I think at the end of the season, Aiden Hutchinson became a true great dominant defensive end in the making. And I think he takes that step up to, I predict 13.5 sacks, just like Spenny. I stole your number, but I think it's a good one and becomes a Pro Bowler and then goes from there. With Kirby Joseph, I think he's got a nose for the football, but he wasn't graded out as well during things like run defense and coverage and stuff like that. And I expect that to go right up. I think Aiden Hutchinson will be a star. I think Kirby Joseph will be an elite turnover creator, but maybe not an elite safety. So give me Aiden Hutchinson.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Super Saiyan Lion says, well, most of Kirby's production came off Aaron Rodgers, so who knows? Hey, that's a good call.
Yeah.
You know, the guy that we steal on all the time is no longer here. So that is a good call. That is interesting to note. DNCENT, every time Neil says a lot of people will disagree with me, everyone agrees with them, LOL. Well, maybe I shortchange people's common sense sometimes. I don't know. All right, 5th down.
Last question of the Lions nickel package. Does Chauncey Gardner-Johnson's energy alone change this defense?
It seems to be, doesn't it? And I'm not even talking about on the field because I haven't been out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Broder might be a better person to ask this question to. But I do stay in my lane. And when I see media interviews, it seems that way. It seems like there's a different energy. Now, that's easy now because, you know, it's not 92 degrees and it's not training camp. And, you know, a NFL team hasn't not punted in an entire game. Like, that's easy to say now
Sure.
when the conditions are easy, when everything's easy and there's nothing on the line. That's easy to say. So, up to this point, I would say yes. Now, let somebody have 28 points in the first half of a game against them and then check back with me.
Well, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, obviously his energy and what he brings as somebody who has been on a team that went to the Super Bowl. As far as any important Detroit Lions players right now, off the top of my head, he would be the one that has won at the highest level. And not just that, he was one of their best defensive players, or at least one of their most productive defensive players last year, being tied for the NFL lead in interceptions with 6. So I think what C.J. Gardner-Johnson brings. Remember how coveted he was as a free agent signing and how happy and grateful and almost shocked the Lions were that they got him at such the deal that they did. C.J. Gardner-Johnson's going to change some things. I think he already probably has, even just at this at like off-season stuff.
Soft Jones says in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread, it's pretty great to have these players to argue about what a difference 3 years makes. Yeah, it's like somebody came in and changed the entire draft philosophy of an organization. I don't know who it is. Maybe I'll get back to you. RJ Graham says, y'all wrong. Hutch will get 1 to 2 sacks per game. So RJ Graham is calling for roughly 25 sacks.
Well, if he does that, he's the defensive player of the year. Nobody gets 1 to 2 sacks per game. Some might get 1. I mean, Nick Bosa did it, and our very own James Houston did it, just for the record.
26. 1.5 per game?
Yeah,
26 sacks?
No player in the history of the NFL has gotten that. The record is 22.5. In 17 games, what would that be? Like 1 1/3 per game or something like that? I would love for you to be right. No chance. And I love Aiden Hutchinson.
Adam Coleman, football is inching closer, slowly bricking up. Well, you know what? Unleash the brick, because here we are. It is time. We're kicking it off. The Lions nickel package. Yes. 5 questions about your Detroit Lions. Let's do it.
All right, first question of the Lions nickel package. How big of a jump do you expect from Aleem McNeil this season?
I mean, the weight thing that they're talking about is real. And interesting side note that I haven't heard a lot of people discuss. We talked about it on the show. Slim down, not necessarily lighter. That was the goal. Aleem McNeil still said he wants to play at 325. So this was a guy.
Like Aaron Donald out there.
That's what I'm saying. And like, look, we saw it with Aleem McNeil, right? Like, was he this big bright shooting star? But to me, Aleem McNeil, I know that I talk about Penei Sewell, how he's the one that turned this whole mentality around. But Aleem McNeil was the first one that was here that put numbers in the columns. Remember I talked about that at the very beginning, even through the 3-13 year. I was like, when he plays, there's numbers in the column.
I remember that.
After his name in the box score.
Those were grim times.
I'm not used to that. Like, guys come in here, like guys who aren't first round picks come in here and do that. That's wild to me. I'm excited to see what it is. Now, believe it or not, you do have to learn how to play like that, because it is different. But I'm hopeful it's a big jump. I mean, it'll take a minute. And Aleem McNeil's not Aaron Donald. He's not a superstar. You win with guys like Aleem McNeil, though, that do something.
Yeah, I actually expect a pretty big jump out of Aleem McNeil as well. When I heard about him losing all of that body fat, I didn't just like it. I loved it. I think that opens up a possibility for him to be more agile in the middle, to maybe be a guy who actually puts up bigger counting numbers, actually provides more interior pressure. It wouldn't shock me at all. Last year he had 1 sack, 6 tackles for loss, and 7 QB hits. It wouldn't shock me if he pumps those sack numbers up to maybe 3 and has double-digit tackles for loss and QB hits, while also providing very good interior presence in the run game. Aleem McNeil is a guy that I think could really benefit this season, could really break out. And I wonder if the front office and the coaching staff had more confidence in Aleem McNeil than we ever thought. And maybe that played into them not going after a Jalen Carter when they had a chance, not going after Kalijah Kancey or Brian Brzee when they had the chance. Maybe they thought they were better off than we thought they were all along. And maybe this is Aleem McNeil's year to show it. Wouldn't shock me at all.
I like it.
Second down.
I like it. Second question of the nickel package. Which side of the ball will have more Pro Bowlers for the Detroit Lions?
I saw that question in the rundown, and like you're instantly trained to say offense, because whenever you hear Pro Bowl, that's what you think, is that it's instantly offense. I think that's going to rest on Kirby Joseph, because this is a Kirby Joseph zone right here, who, by the way, was rocking the free JMO shirt yesterday.
Oh, yeah, he was.
That was pretty tight.
That was dope.
And he talked about it, too, because he got asked about it. And then he was made a bunch of non-comments about it. It was perfect.
Kirby's the man.
Kirby is the man. Does Kirby have that in him to do it the way we've been hyping him up?
Maybe. Wouldn't shock me.
When it doesn't matter what Spenny sets the over at with he's like over under interceptions for Kirby Joseph 15. We're over.
Well,
Like it doesn't. There isn't a line that you can set. It's because I think Hutch will be there, right? You told me that.
Yes,
will be there.
I think so.
It rides on Houston following it up, and it rides on Kirby Joseph.
Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will be there.
He'll be there because of a body of work.
Cam Sutton.
You see what I'm saying? Like if these two, if the two young bucks take another jump this year and get there, it's stunning to me that I'm going to sit here and tell you on the defensive side of the ball, but it could be.
Wow. See, I'm going offense, and I actually am surprised that you guys are going defense because to me on the offense, there are three that are basically baked-in guarantees for me. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Frank Ragnow, and Penei Sewell. I think that they're going to be shoo-ins. I'd also expect Jared Goff to potentially make it, especially given that Ben Johnson is coming back. The offensive line is still intact. David Montgomery, Jamison Williams is going to play for the last 11 games. And then maybe Jonah Jackson, who has made a Pro Bowl. The Lions have had 5 offensive players on this roster that have made Pro Bowls. The defense, believe it or not, 0. I expect Aiden Hutchinson to do it. I think that he would be the most likely. But even C.J. Gardner-Johnson, he has never made a Pro Bowl.
Well, he would have made it last year if they weren't in the Super Bowl.
Well, it's listed on the website that he didn't make it. So I thought that even if he would have, if he just didn't go because of the Super Bowl, they would have listed it. But you know what? Maybe he obviously deserved it. I think he had a season worthy of it. Cam Sutton has never made a Pro Bowl. There's more unknowns. Kirby Joseph, I'm a fan of his as well, but you just don't know. With the offense, there's guys that have done it, and you know what you're going to get from them. And obviously, I don't see anyone in the linebacking core getting it. Maybe James Houston if he has another crazy sack season. I got to go offense.
WoodwardSports.com chat thread, Shane Sandrock says, I think Kirby gets 6 picks at least. He gets 6 picks. He's a Pro Bowler.
C.J. Gardner-Johnson got 6 last year. And according to what I've been looking at, he wasn't. And I'm not saying that he didn't deserve it. I'm not saying that Kirby wouldn't deserve it. But it doesn't guarantee you anything.
He gets 6 picks. They're going to win the division.
Yes,
and
absolutely.
He'll go to the Pro Bowl.
Okay, you know what? That parlay I could see. Yes.
I'm glad I could change your mind. Steve Wild says Aleem McNeil had the highest PFF grade ever by a defensive tackle against the Giants last year. And Steve, I'll allow it because it fits my narrative.
He had 13 pressures in that game.
And I'll go to it, and I'll accept a PFF comparison because it fits my narrative.
That's fair.
When it does not fit my narrative, I dismiss PFF and say, "Oh, I hear that all the time from PFF."
Yeah.
PFF has become the ultimate football political talking point, man, where you use it when it suits you, you dismiss it when it doesn't. It's wild to me.
Well, I was talking about it, and I was Spenny, you were talking about it. For that game against the Giants last year, he was Aaron Donald, he was Chris Jones, he was Quinnen Williams.
He was as good as anybody in the league.
100%.
Yeah.
So not shocking at all that PFF rated him as the highest defensive tackle for that game.
The biggest down in the game, third down.
Third down. Third question of the nickel package. Who will finish second on this team in receiving yards?
Jamison Williams.
Yeah.
The longer this goes on, and look, I know it's practice clips, but guys, I'm telling you, I've got a pretty good eye for this kind of stuff. He looks different than everybody else out there. You know what I'm saying? Like his release from the line of scrimmage, his top end speed, his acceleration. Guys, I'm telling you, man, I know you're upset about the gambling stuff and all that kind of, and what tweets he likes and things like that, or gram posts he likes. I know that upsets you and everything like that. When you open the garage, this man's a Ferrari. He is an absolute Ferrari, man. I'm telling, he is going to be big.
You know what, Neil? You are absolutely right. I agree. And part of it, for me, goes into the fact that they don't have another guy that I would be confident being a true number 2. I think that Josh Reynolds can do it in spurts. Khalif Raymond was their second leading receiver last year, and he's back. They don't really have a number 1 tight end, although we hope it's Sam Laporta, but I don't expect huge production from him next year. Jamison Williams, I agree with you. I am a little bit concerned with his usage and the fact that he's going to miss a ton of games, first year with injury and this year with gambling, but I expect him to come back and be the player that we all hoped he would.
And guess what?
Yes.
None of us will care.
Absolutely
the people that
not.
are shaking their fist in the air, J-Mo! they'll be like, yeah, J-Mo.
But he has to do it first. And I think that that's fair, and I think we would all agree with that, but I expect him to. I'm one of those people that Jamison Williams, I've said that. I've never seen anyone quite like him in college. I like to watch Alabama games. I've always liked to watch Alabama games, so I saw a lot of Jamison Williams. He's a complete receiver, but he's also the fastest man on every single field he basically walks onto. And he's going to be that in the NFL. How could he not
in the
be
streets,
productive?
they would call him a Rari.
Yeah.
Yes.
True.
Because that man is all Ferrari. I cannot wait.
Justin Slanik would say he's blazing.
He's blazing.
It is, though. Even last year, he is the first. See, Calvin was different because it wasn't speed.
It didn't. Calvin had speed, but it didn't look like, because just the long strides,
Yeah.
the fluidity of it. Yeah.
Like-
J-Mo's got the explosiveness.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm saying, like, even last year, when he got the ball those 3 times and scored a touchdown all 3. I know it's not the narrative that you've been given. The narrative is, oh, he had 1 catch. You're not going to miss 1 catch.
Yeah.
Or you can look at it from the perspective I do, say he touched the ball 3 times in the NFL and scored a touchdown all 3 times he touched it. 1 got called back on a penalty. The other one, they said he was down at the half-yard line when he wasn't, and they didn't care. They just ran it in anyway. He is exciting. He's the most exciting Lion I've seen since Barry. Just in the anticipation of him getting the ball. He is Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Like, I feel about him, I watch Tyreek Hill because I'm excited to see him play. I'm not asking him to raise my kids or anything like that. I'm not asking him to do anything in the community.
Yeah.
He's exciting to watch
Ask
play.
him to play football. And he's really good at that.
That's it. That's all.
Yeah.
And then at 4:15, he's done playing football, and I'll see you next Sunday. You know, like that. He's exciting, man. Like I can't wait for him.
Oh, yeah, and when we're talking about receiving yards, he's one of those guys that you could see him have a stat line in a couple of games of even 2 catches for 80 yards, and that will go a long way with pumping up his receiving yards numbers.
And that was where I
Yeah.
was driving at. Like
Yeah.
that will be an off game for him. 2 catches for 80 yards with no touchdowns.
I mean, if that's an off game for him, we're talking about him being one of the best receivers in the NFL going forward, which I believe he has the talent to. I really do.
Detroit Supremacy says DeAndre Hopkins will be second.
I'd like to hear that.
So
That
there's
was-
that one as well.
That was a sneaky answer I was thinking about giving, but I held off. So.
I understand he's beginning his tour, his recruiting tour,
Fuck yeah.
or whatever. So, Wyatt Bear says Ford versus Ferrari was based on Jamison Williams. So,
That's true.
yeah. People Pleaser says Calvin ran a 4.3, bulldozed safeties, and jumped over 3 defensive. No, he explosive speed. You just didn't.
Yeah, Calvin was fast. He was really, really fast.
Yeah.
But, like, it didn't look like he was running that fast, but he was.
Justin Ford says you can't meet ride J-Mo until he plays. Well, he did play. He got the ball 3 times in an NFL game and scored a touchdown all 3 times. Go look it up. Go watch the plays. So yeah, what
And was
other
underthrown
guy
on
has
one.
that kind of impact?
And was underthrown on one more.
Yeah, so yeah, I can meet ride him because he has played 3 games. It's Big Package Friday.
Big package.
It's built on meat riding.
Absolutely.
4th down.
So, next question of the Lions nickel package. Coming out of camp yesterday, Penei Sewell is taking a more vocal leadership role as requested by his teammates. Like, obviously, right? It's gotta happen.
You guys, I want to record. I want a recording of it. Anytime Penei Sewell becomes a conversation, and you just push the button to get my statement on it.
Yeah.
This guy will be the one. He will be the first one that gets the Lombardi Trophy when they win it. Think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
He's the dude already. They're looking to, like, look at this. And I don't even know that they're looking to. It's just understood.
His teammates told him that he needs to speak up more.
And he probably doesn't because he's like, oh well, I'm a young,
Yeah.
I'm a young player,
Yeah.
and it's not my time, it's not my place. Guys, you know my feelings on this man. This is the guy that turned it all over. I was Brad Holmes, but on the field, Penei Sewell. Mark my words. Much like I said, Nikola Jokic is the best player in the game 4 years ago when I was mocked and scorned, notably by the Data Davis people. Mark my words. 5 years from now, this man will be a cornerstone, not only in the National Football League, but in Detroit Lions lore.
You know what? And I will agree with that in 5 years. And Penei Sewell, he's arguably the best player on the team, pound for pound, position for position. He's the type of guy that I could see being an all-pro in the next couple of years. There's only a handful of guys on the Lions that have that kind of impact, and he plays the position on the unit that is the best Detroit Lions unit, and he's the guy that made it elite. So yeah, this isn't shocking at all. Penei Sewell is elite, and he is one of the best players on the team, arguably the best player on the team. So yeah, I love it.
Mr. K. Wells Forrest says Neil gets bricked up for Sewell.
Yes, you do.
I'm talking full on masonry, full on. Like if you're gonna build I could build a deck with it.
That's fair. That's fair. Real quick, last
Fifth down.
question of the Lions nickel package: who finishes with more passing yards next year, Jared Goff or Geno Smith?
It's got to be Goff. It's got to be. Please, for my sake. Hey, Goff, look, if you finish with less passing yards than Geno Smith, assuming everybody plays the same amount of games, then please win a playoff game. So then that way people can take the trick, but I'll come back with the Bauer and slam it on the table and say, hey, I made the point.
Oh, yeah.
Please. It's Goff, right?
But with this version of Geno, there's no real shame in losing out to him on passing yards, which is a stat that is selectively more important than other times. I actually think it's going to be Geno Smith who has more. And to me, it's more about working backwards. I think Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf are two guys you can pretty much pencil in for 1,000 yards. You're going to get 23 to 2,500 yards between the two of them, and they just added Jackson Smith and Jigba, who could end up being the best wide receiver from this entire class. The Lions, at least in the first 6 games, they're Amon-Ra St. Brown and a bunch of dudes. No disrespect to Josh Reynolds and old Marvin Jones or Khalif Raymond or even rookie Sam Laporta. I just think with all the weapons that the Seattle Seahawks have, even with Kenneth Walker catching passes out of the backfield, I would go with Geno Smith.
Real quick, Shane Sandrock, simping for Sewell. Yes, I could redo the roads in my whole subdivision into brick.
Yes, you could.
The Monty Williams thing. Yes, we know it's a lot of money.
Right.
Yes, we know it's a lot of years. That's how business works. You have to make somebody make a choice. They did. They got their guy. I'm not interested in that breakdown. We know what those numbers are. I am interested in this. I kind of gave everybody my interpretation of what Monty Williams will do, especially offensively, for the guards, the pick and roll. I gave the numbers. You know, one of the big stats where the Phoenix Suns were 5th in points per game off the pick and roll by the roller, i.e. DeAndre Ayton,
Chris Paul.
Monty Williams' offense, the buzz phrase was the half-second offense.
Yep.
That was the buzz phrase.
Yep.
My interpretation of that from what I've seen, Lindsay, is this. And you tell me you're on, you're full of ish, somewhere in the middle. The half-second offense, the pace within a possession will pick up. Not necessarily more possessions, more points. Not from that angle. When you're within a possession, the speed of that possession will increase. The decision-making will increase.
Right.
Thereby, ball movement will increase. The Pistons were one of the worst in the league at ball movement last year. A lot of dribble, go create a shot. Am I on base with that? Is that the biggest difference we're going to see? Half-second, quick decisions, the pace within a possession will change.
You're on point because that's exactly what Monty wants. He incorporated the half-second, I think, solely in Phoenix because of, the way Chris Paul plays. Chris Paul is a ball-dominant guard, right? And when you got a scorer like Booker, and you got Aiden and you got KD, then we need quick decisions. We need everybody to spread that ball as fast as possible to give these guys ample opportunities to make plays, right?
Right.
I think that'll happen here with young guys learning, I don't hold it, and I don't sit here and try to dissect the defense by, over dribbling. It's catch, shot. If I don't have shot, pass, or make a play. And I think that'll speed things up. And it'll help those guys adjust their mentality to how we play. And I think we'll be more efficient that way. I think we're capable of scoring. We got enough weapons. And once the young guys get acclimated with what Monty has incorporated and acclimated with one another because they hadn't really played together a lot.
Right.
It'll be different. It'll look totally different, and I think it'll be more efficient.
In the WoodwardSports.com chat thread, Brandon says Detroit's defense will get exposed if they play fast. The faster a team plays, the harder it is for that team to defend. And Brandon, it's not fast like you're thinking.
No.
Like it's not get a shot up in 10 seconds. Well, it's faster within the possessions will remain about the same. There may be a few more, but they'll remain about the same. That's what I'm trying to drive home to everybody. Like when I say half-second play fast, not, get a shot up,
It's not come down jacking threes. It's not that. And people misconstrue playing fast with we're just coming down shooting. That's not what that means. And plus, even if your pace of play is fast, the Warriors have always been top 5 in pace of play. But the years they won the championships, what was the key determining factor in them winning the championship? They were top 10 in defense.
Right.
So it doesn't matter pace of play. You can still play fast and defend. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter. You know, it's about, and we'll see it with Monty. Monty will have definitive defensive structure. There'll be no guessing of what we do defensively.
And that's it, Lindsay. All right, give me the geeky stuff. Sports talk for one.
Right.
Neil in Washington Township wants to know. We've heard about the offense. We've heard about the buzz phrases and all that kind of stuff. Explain what Monty Williams will do defensively, maybe differently than what Pistons fans have seen.
Well, defensively, like if you watch Phoenix play, of course, you know on side pick and rolls, they'll down all the screens, which is force them baseline. They'll force everything baseline. They'll funnel them to the bigs. You know, you may get late switches. Like our rule was always under 6 seconds we switch, but you're still switching in a down, and which gives the big. You know, you got to be able to keep that guy in front of you for 5 seconds, which is doable with the bigs that we have.
Right.
You'll see things like that. You won't see so much of the. I think we had a helter-skelter defensive style last year where there were switches, there were, different coverages. You'll see the same consistency everywhere on the floor, and that's how you become a great continuity defensive team. And we've seen that with Monty's teams everywhere he's been.
Right.
And that won't change. I think that'll get better. And that's why I think, as a whole, I don't know if the Pistons can do what the Miami Heat did, but I'm looking for them to be fighting to get an 8th seed or a 7th seed with all the changes that is going on.
And Lindsay, look, it's apparent. I think it's apparent because it always comes back to that. And in the chat, we ultimately get those questions. None of this matters if they don't defend.
Right.
But in the pantheon of basketball, and we've seen this before for the old heads that remember the bad boys coming up, the defensive side of the ball is always the last to come because in this league, you have to know how to defend.
Right.
And how do you get to know how to do something? You got to be out there and you got to take it. It is the last thing to come. It's just the way that is. The scores are too great. The offenses are too intricate. The guys are too talented. It is that where this will be a work in process.
No doubt. But the thing is, people have to understand offenses are always ahead of defenses, especially in the beginning of seasons. Your offenses will always be ahead of your defense. That's just it's just a thing that happens because everybody wants to play offense.
No one's in the gym Lindsay.
Nobody works on defense.
Shoot me straight.
No,
nobody's in the gym in
working
July.
on defensive slides. It doesn't happen, people.
Your trainer's not there with the whistle. Slide. Now Russell Wilson's working on slides, but that's different. He's goated. But no, you're not doing it.
I was considered a great defender.
Right. Not to Sam Flannel, but yes, in basketball circles, you were considered a great defender.
I cannot tell you one time in the offseason that I worked on defense because I didn't do it. Not once. Not once.
Thousands of shots.
And look, in pickup games, I rarely defended. I was just like, hey, let him score. I mean, hey, who cares?
Because I'm going to score.
Let me get the ball. That was, I'm not guarding nobody. Now, season starts, I'm in your chest. 94-50, I'm in your chest. Off season, man, I'm in the gym getting jumpers up, working on my hand, making moves. I'm not doing any defensive drills in the summer. So that doesn't happen. And that's why offense will always be ahead of defense.
Guys, we went to the source and gave it to you, man. Like this is, you guys know the story with Lindsay. Like regarded as a great defensive player. Didn't work on it.
Not
Self-admitted,
once.
just here. Breaking news, Woodward Sports. I never worked on defense. Well, then you were just blessed by God, I guess, Lindsay. Like that is it. Nobody wants to do it.
Nope.
They don't. WoodwardSports.com, chat thread, DNCENT. Neil, who's almost guaranteed to not be here next year? I have my list, but it might not be the same as others. Look, if Bojan doesn't get moved before the draft, he'll be here up until the trade deadline. Situations matter. Situationally dependent. If they're in a position where they can do something, and the return of being in a spot to be in the mix outweighs the return they would get for Bojan,
Right.
then they'll keep him. But that's a hard sell, Lindsay. If you're going to sell me right now, that's a hard sell to me to say, hey, you're talking about in your world there where you're saying you're fighting for a 7 seed. Now that's different. Then Bojan will be here. But if you're not, he won't. I think that's just me. I'm not the GM or anything like that.
Right.
Because he's an expiring veteran
Yep.
that has a skill set that's an upper echelon skill set in this league. Every time he shoots the ball, I think it's going in.
No doubt.
Every time.
No doubt. I mean, he's definitely a commodity in today's NBA, and I'm sure teams like the Lakers, teams that are trying to get over the top, could use another shooter. You got LeBron, you got AD. You want floor spacers. You want people that can knock down shots, and that's a guy that can do it. So he is a hot commodity, especially on contending teams, I would think.
Right. WoodwardSports.com chat thread. Chuck wants to know, Neil, what would Lindsey Hunter know about basketball? We have the expert Sam Flannel here to explain it all to us. D. Smitty asked, Lindsey, and this is a great question, is there a future as a defender for Killian Hayes in this league?
I think so, because I think he can do it. I've watched him, and there were nights when he really showed that he could defend. It's just a matter of him having that mentality, knowing that the way for me to impact this game, because you have guys in front of you that are going to play a lot of the minutes, and they're going to do a lot of the offensive, they're going to carry a lot of the offensive load. You have to find a way to impact the game and impact your team. And I think it'll make him better if he took that mindset of, because I think he could be a really, really good backup.
Is Killian one of those guys that would take on a whole new identity in a Phoenix or in playing for the Lakers or somebody, like a championship, in the discussion for a championship level team, in that you can mix and match him, you can use him at timeouts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like,
I get what you're saying.
Somebody that, as you talked about, get in your chest, get on your hip.
I think he could do that. I think, it's just a matter of, like I said, is he willing to accept that role, and is he willing to put his all into being one of those guys? And people don't understand. Those guys make a lot of money. We've watched PJ Tucker exhaust his contracts every year because he can defend and make a corner three occasionally. Mm-hmm. But he defends. That's all he does.
Here's one more question. This is kind of becoming like a de facto Ask Lindsey thing, which we'll do at the end of the show, by the way. Real quick, this will be the last one on it. Neil, can you ask Lindsey, are modern NBA players really worse mid-range shooters and lazier on defense? And Lindsey, that one bothers me, when people ask, are they lazier on defense? And I would say no, because the scorers are so much more refined and so much more athletic. They're the most athletic they've ever been, the scorers, the great ones.
Right. People don't understand,
and they can't hand check anymore.
What's that?
You can't hand check anymore on defense.
Right, you can't touch, you can't put your hands on people. The game now is built to help offensive players.
Like the NFL.
Right.
It's almost like the NFL.
Yes, it's built to help the offense have the advantage. So when you have gifted offensive players, it's hard. People wonder why these guys are putting up astronomical numbers. Dude, you can't. You get out on an island with Devin Booker, and you think you're going to stop him
without being able to touch him.
You're not. It's over. You got a pick and roll with Jokic and Murray. What are your chances of stopping them?
Yeah.
Very, very hard.
Especially when Jokic gets that inside step, it's already over. You may as well just put 2 points on the board and go back
or 3,
down.
because if Murray comes off and you don't step up, boom.
Going off the off the cuff here a little bit. Tammy Chin,
Yes.
Tammy
we
Chin.
got an update.
We got an update about the Steve Yzerman press conference. There was a quote that caught your fancy, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't have it here, but Steve Yzerman pretty much said, I'm going to make the best trade for the Detroit Red Wings and deal with the fallout later. So he's looking to upgrade this team. He's looking to make a deal. Hopefully it's a splash. I mean, anybody who's Game of Thrones fans, winter's coming. Well, Stevie's coming. You know, this sounds like he's digging in to make some moves. I mean, he also addressed goaltending and stuff like that, which we know is a constant. And what did I tell you here? Who's the harshest guy that I know, critic on a goaltender? It's Steve Yzerman, without a doubt. Of anybody I ever played with or been around, right? He has no use for him. No, I mean, it's ridiculous. Like, it's not.
I could tell by the way he treated him when he was a player.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But it smells, and what does that mean? Right? What does that mean? And I think that when I hear him talking like this, and then Steve Yzerman, and what do I always say? Listen when he talks. He's ready to make some moves, and he's ready to upgrade this team because he thinks this team with the younger talent that he has is starting to be further along. And to me, that's just to reiterate that it's a playoff team next year, or then there's big questions to be asked. So, don't you love to hear that?
Yes.
And if it is your Alex DeBrincat or right, because I know you're high on him because of the goal scorer and stuff like that, you bring him, you could bring him in. And there's a 40-goal guy, a guy that you're very familiar with from his days in Chicago. So just sit back, wait and see. Draft less than just more than 1 week away.
Yep.
Week from tomorrow. Exciting time. But Stevie's out there talking, so guys, fish are biting. The fish are biting.
I wonder about, because look, this is the path now, D-Mac, and we've seen this with the NBA. We're seeing it live and in person with the NHL. We saw it with the Florida Panthers and Matthew Tkachuk.
It's the new way.
It's the new way that you do business. If you have somebody, you draft somebody, you develop them, you lock them up, or you trade them during their restricted free agency year.
And
one of the two.
Because you get compensation back.
You get compensation back for it, exactly. Free agency is dead, everybody. If you know what this is like? You know what free agency is like now in the NBA and the NHL? It's like the NBA draft when you're an upperclassman in college. If you're an upperclassman in college and you're in the draft, it's over for you. You know what you're on the downside.
Right?
You're on the downside.
See, I think free agency in the NHL now is solidifying and building those support players. You're not going to get your superstars. You have to draft them, re-sign them, or you're going to have to pay a fee like we've seen, you mentioned with Florida, for a restricted free agent. That's the new hot topic. But I think a guy I'm interested in when free agent comes is a guy who's played for Stevie before, and Alex Killorn. It's the veteran guys. How are you also going to, and that's what free agency is sort of building your foot soldiers and everything else to accommodate. But your stars, your snipers, your 40-goal guys, your top guys, yeah, it looks like you're going to have to give something to get something.
And that's the way it is. And remember, too, because...
And that's the best part. Here's the thing. When the game changes, who adjusts quick instead of being left behind, right? Steve Yzerman is going to adjust quick, and that's what, to me, and I'm interested to listen to go watch the press conference after the show of how he said, and I'll give you my breakdown tomorrow if there's anything else that I heard in there that triggered me, but I like what I'm hearing.
Yeah, and again, with DeBrincat, my thing with him, 2-time 40-goal scorer on his resume, and people will point to last year with Ottawa, got in the 30-goal discussion. I need goals. And I saw people talking about it in the WoodwardSports.com chat thread. People questioning his defensive ability and stuff like that. I don't care how he is as a defender. D-Mac, you cannot win if you don't score goals. You can't.
Absolutely.
You cannot win. And you want to unlock Dylan Larkin too, or at least... Because we have this discussion. I've said this. You've said this. If Dylan Larkin's your second center, you got a Stanley Cup contending team, right? That's because obviously then you have your 1C, your dude, as the 1C. For me, as it sits now, you go into next year with Larkin as your center and DeBrincat as your first line. You are lethal on the power play because the power play got better last year. Is that fair?
Yep.
Okay. Now add DeBrincat to that.
Yeah.
Where you're double shifting him power plays.
Think about it right off the top of your head. The right-hand shot on the power play on the top of the wing, the Ovechkin, the Stamkos, the Pasternak, right? All these guys that make a living, you know, the open one time on the right side. That's the DeBrincat. That's his job too. So you need one of those, and he's, you know, top 10 sniper in the league. That's what you need. So, and so in reading between the tea leaves, the tea leaves, the fact is that what Steve Yzerman just said is that if I don't get the guy I want, it's not because I didn't offer enough. It's because the other team chose a different deal.
Right.
Do you get? That's what he said. That I don't care about the fallout. Right. Where the fallout is that, you know what, that tells me that we're turning it up. The engines are ready to roll, and we're going to start putting it in gear, and maybe a little bit sooner than some people thought.
I don't know if it was the way you said the quote, but it got me. It cut to my soul when you're like, read it again. What Yzerman said about the trade.
No, he just said that he's going to do what's the best for the Detroit Red Wings and deal with the fallout later. That's
something
that's
brewing,
old
dude.
school.
Yeah.
That's what
You're announcing it.
This is the only. Here's perspective that I can give everyone out there because I was with this man. Right? That's a trigger to whatever else that my body for 30 years just goes, oh, it's go time. I got chills because he doesn't talk about fallout. What he's trying to prepare us for is, you know what? You might lose somebody, right, in the fallout, somebody you thought would be here. Right? Let's read even more, Neil. Right? Might be some of these young guys. Might be a younger guy that you're going to have to pay to go get this. And the fallout might not be popular. But you know what? It's hashtag Wiser playing. It's time to play with the big boys, and he's arming up. To me, my internal clock, and again, I will break it down tomorrow once I watch this, right, to know more how I vibe this. But this is exciting.
Yes, it is.
Because we're going to war. That's what it is. I mean, he just told me to go buckle up and
and that's what I got from it, D-Mac, was... Yep. Just you saying that
earlier, because I thought we talk about this. Yes, moves will be made, but is it not till next year? And he's going, no, now's the time. Why? Because everybody else is getting ahead, and he's always going to be ahead, right? He's always going to be ahead, or what? If not the first, one of the first to the party, or he's going to see somebody change the game, and he's going to say, is that the game that needs to be changed? And he's not going to bat a lash and go, well, let me see if like 3-4 other teams do it, or if this guy does it, or if this guy. No. He knows what he wants to do, and I think that he's about to have some fun.
Okay, so let me ask you in this way, D-Mac. Should we prepare the people? Because what you're alluding to me, this is me reading the room,
yes.
Okay, is there might be a name that gets moved that we have possibly talked about being moved before that was a non-starter with people. I'm not saying you're calling for it or it's going to happen. I'm saying get prepared.
No. Oh, no. That's what I'm absolutely telling you. That's what
excuse me.
That's
okay.
what fallout means. The fallout too is that, and so doesn't mean I don't think that anybody's safe, other than your captain and Sider. But as far as like Lucas Raymond or Katz, whoever else. That everybody's at play. Because what is the quote again? I'm going to do what's best for the Detroit Red Wings hockey team and deal with the fallout later.
I love that.
You know what? Hey, where would you absolutely love to hear that come out of?
Steve Yzerman.
Okay, it came out of him.
Yeah.
Right? But like the other sports teams or something like this, to the fact, right?
I'll deal with the fallout later.
What does that mean? That means you're playing in the big boys.
Because it means he's going to look into the camera, and he'll tell you, too. Steve Eisman will
Always
tell you
does.
this in press conferences. He's the only
Just
one that does it.
listen.
He's the only one that does it. We weren't ready to win. And under no I love it when he's like, under no circumstances was I adding at this
So
deadline.
here's the thing, too, which I forgot and you brought it up. Simon Edvidson, who we expect to be, might be one of those guys. Everybody to get you to what's better off. It might hurt a little bit.
And
right?
remember, guys, remember again, going back to
And
what the Panthers
what do you
gave
always
up.
say? What is that? That's the price you got to pay
Yep.
to swim in the deep
It's
waters.
the cover charge to get in the club.
Cover charge to the club.
Otherwise, you're outside looking in the blacked out window,
I'm
man.
on
Like
the
that's it. When we
outside.
come back.